The Iron Dictators by Shri Aurobindo. I looked for thee alone, but met my glance, the iron dead dreadful four who rule our breath. So it seems that Shri Aurobindo, the poet, undertook a spiritual quest for God and self realization. He knew that his soul was on a righteous path because he was looking for God. He was looking for the sublime and he was looking for what is good. But however, he was surprised because in his quest for realizing the divine, in the process of exploring the truth and beholding his beloved Almighty, the author instead had to confront four powerful and deadly enemies or foes. These foes ruled over his very breath, all our very breath. And what is breath? Breath is our entire existence. We live because we breathe. And how do we know that the poet was in quest of God? Because he says thee. T is in capital. And God is, when we refer to God, we say G capital. When we say you, God, we say Y capital. So in his quest for divinity. And these foes, they rule over our entire existence, our life, our soul, our very breath with an iron hand. They are the major obstacles in the path of realizing the Almighty. Now, how have they been spoken of? They have been called masters of falsehood, that is, lies, kings of ignorance, that is, extreme ignorance. I am not aware, not being aware. That means my soul is immersed in darkness. And when I come into knowledge, it is then that the person's soul is becoming enlightened. High sovereign lords of suffering and death. So they are also extremely powerful, which is the reason why they are being called masters, kings, high sovereign lords. And all these things, all the vices like lying, lust, greed, ignorance, they cannot give the soul its enlightenment. This is also something that Lord Buddha had said, that these kind lust, if you remember the Ashtangic marg of Lord Buddha, so things like greed, attachment, lust, lying, they will just cause you suffering. And finally, the body will die a mortal death. But if you are on the path of righteousness and one is there seeking the eternal truth and one is not digressing from that path in spite of all the provocations, in spite of all the attractions that one faces in that path, because you see the path less traveled leads you to the best places, but of course provides you with one of the most challenging hindrances. Nirvana is denied to those who follow these masters of falsehood, kings of ignorance, and lords of suffering. Now the poet realizes that they are nothing but our own vices in the form of anger, greed, lust, and attachment. And attachment, as even the Lord Buddha says, is the root cause of all suffering and agony prevailing all around the world. Whence came these formidable autarkies? From what inconscient, blind infinity? So the author is, the poet is absolutely clueless that he had set out on a proper quest. Then why and from where are these foes coming to meet him? The challenges that posing as obstacles to realizing his eternal truth. These that have been referred to as masters of falsehood, deception, and kings of ignorance. They advocate and sell a million lies to our souls. The souls, then what happens? They start identifying falsely with the body, because the body is representative of the materialistic world and its pleasures. The soul stops its quest for the Supreme Almighty and considers the world of illusion, that is, everything material, all the riches, all the gold, all the power and position. What is this? This is all illusion. Something which in our language we call Maya. And that is not the absolute truth. We can actually think about the Iron Dictators from the terms of two of the prose and poetry that you have studied. Ozymandias. Ozymandias had everything at his feet. He was one of the most powerful pharaohs, if not the most powerful. But then what remained of him was nothing but dust in the middle of the desert. I mean, a shattered statue, and the person standing in front of the statue is confused that where from did this statue appear in the middle of the desert which was once his flourishing kingdom. So what was left of his power, of his wealth? Nothing. So this again is illusion. Then think about Dhannanda. Dhannanda usurped the throne. He was a tyrannical ruler. He was not loved by anyone. He must have had a lot of wealth and a lot of riches, but what he was impoverished in was love, loyalty, etc. He did not find care, and therefore he ceased to exist. But even today, if you talk about the former poetry, art was perpetuating. It's still perpetuated. And about the next insult that created an empire, Chanakya. Still today, we hail him, and his books are read worldwide and are actually relevant to this very day. So, we must not digress from our path to searching the ultimate truth because of any illusion or Maya. The four intimidating vices are therefore gateways to pain and suffering. And they are actually cold propagandists of a million lies, dictators of a world of agony. We can also say there have been many leaders in the world who had terrible things on their agenda: death, torture. But what did they do? They were coldly carrying them out. They were good propagandists who made people believe that their calculative murder is actually for the greater good. So, what did they become? They became dictators. But what did they create? Nothing but a world of agony. Then, suddenly, the poet asks a profound question. Or was it thou, T capital again, who borest the fourfold mask, enveloping thy timeless heart in time? Thou hast bound the spirit to its cosmic task, to find thee veiled in this tremendous mime. The poet now therefore wonders whether it is God's intention, and God has intentionally enveloped our soul with and appeared himself wearing the fourfold mask of this iron dictators. Is it our test? Is it the test that he is putting us through? Because when we are supposed to say that we have achieved this, we have to pass through a test to prove that we have achieved it. And to achieve God is the most daunting thing of all. So naturally, it would have a very, very difficult test ahead of such an achievement, or before such an achievement. The cosmic task or purpose of our own embodied existence is to remove this fourfold mask and discover the eternal, indestructible light of our soul within. So once we have passed the test, this mime, something silent but expressing 1,000 emotions. So, God, you, only you can raise us above this siege or this war that the soul fights in order to say that not be, I will not be entrapped or enthralled by the materialistic gains. I will rise above it all. I will embrace an austere life, but I want you. I want you, God. So, this internal conflict, it is only you who can raise us above this invincible, this. Now, the poet realizes that this is just God's test, and only God can help us pass it. And of course, we ourselves, we must also be dauntless in our search for the truth. And then he prays to God, saying, O light, the most luminous one, O deathless joy, one who is there forever, O rapturous peace, peace that knows no boundary when it comes to happiness, rapturous peace. So, this is what the poet has tried to convey to us, that when you are seeking the truth, when you are seeking God, do not digress from your path. There will be a lot of attractions that will come and try to deter you from reaching your goal. Your goal is difficult, your goal is tough, but do not worry. Just keep on walking towards your goal and objective, because you know that is the supreme towards whom you are moving. And whatever obstacles they come in between, you must overcome them, keeping faith in God Himself, because God shall deliver.